from the station working for you. This is WRTV News at 11, streaming now.
Good evening and thanks for staying up late with us. A major ruling for voters in Indiana who plan to cast their ballot by mail. A judge has extended the deadline for your ballot to arrive to its destination and be counted. The new deadline is November 13th, as long as your ballot is postmarked on or before Election Day, November 3rd. In Marion County alone, hundreds of absentee ballots were not counted for the primary election because they missed the deadline. WRTV's Cornelius Hawker talked to one of the women who helped make this change possible.
I had not been informed that it had not been counted.
Crystal Hammond is one of the thousands of people whose mail-in ballot was not counted during Indiana's primary election. The reason? It was delivered after the noon deadline on Election Day.
I was just shocked and surprised that it didn't get counted and that there was no system to even follow up with me and tell me.
She was contacted by Common Cause Indiana and from there became part of a lawsuit to change that rule.
If the lawsuit had not been filed, I wouldn't have even known.
Voters, we don't have any control on that mail-in ballot once we drop it in the slot.
Julia Vaughn, policy director for Common Cause Indiana, says now, as long as voters get their mail-in ballot postmarked by November 3rd and it reaches its destination by November 13th, your vote will be counted.
We're very grateful that the judge recognized that voters can't and shouldn't be disenfranchised by this arbitrary deadline any longer.
Julia tells me this is not a new idea.
We already allow voters who cast a provisional ballot and those who vote from overseas or in the military. They already get the 10-day window. So we're simply extending that window to all mail-in voters.
But even with this extension, some people are still feeling uneasy about mailing in their ballot.
The question is, are you going to do mail-in voting this time or?
No, I will not. I made the statement once that had happened to me, I just decided I would crawl to the polls if I had to and to cast my ballot this time. It's too important.
Working for you, Cornelius Hawker, WRTV.
Common Cause for Indiana is hopeful the judge's ruling will stand and won't be challenged by Indiana Attorney General Curtis Hill. His office says they are reviewing and considering options. You still have time to register to vote. The deadline is Monday. You can register online at indianavoters.in.gov. And many groups will be hosting in-person registration events in the coming days, including Ivy Tech. A drive-through voter registration goes from 9 to 6 on Friday at the campus on Fall Creek Parkway between Illinois and Capitol. Now to the forecast. The cool down continues. WRTV Chief Meteorologist Kevin Gregory is helping you plan for the day ahead. Kevin.
And Mark, it's almost October. We're in the final minutes here of September. If you've been out tonight, nearly full moon. It looks great. It's like a third headlight on your car. Technically, it will be full. Tomorrow night, as far as our temperatures, they're comfortably cool. 47 in Kokomo, 57 in Columbus. Indy's at 51. Okay, the changes for your Thursday, 10 degrees cooler. It'll still be windy, but only 20-mile-per-hour gusts instead of 38. Chance for rain about 30%. Here's what's happening tomorrow morning. 46 at the bus stop, 61 on the way home with that slight chance for showers. We'll show you what happens through 1 o'clock. The clouds will increase, a couple of showers by early afternoon. I'll finish that timeline, look into the weekend, and show you the trend for next week's temperatures. A lot to happen all before midnight.
Well, before the end of the year, a new bank will be up and running in a part of the east side that hasn't been home to a financial institution in years. WRTV's Cameron Riddle shows you how this could open up new opportunities for residents.
In Indianapolis, there are a number of things the east side of the city doesn't have.
We don't have a bank. We don't have adequate access to healthy food sources. We don't have great sidewalks. We don't have just the basic essentials for a great quality well-being. And the list goes on and on.
But this fall, that list will be shorter when the new First Merchants Bank opens near 38th Street and Keystone Avenue. Ashley Gervitz is the CEO of the Alliance for Northeast Unification and lives just blocks from the bank, which for her will be a 3-minute bike ride from home, compared to the 3-mile car trip she currently takes to the nearest bank. She and area residents are thrilled.
They are so excited. They're like, What do we have to do to make sure, now that we have something that wants to invest in us, to make sure it doesn't leave again?
The staff at First Merchants Bank say they recognize the need for a bank in the 46218 zip code. It's among the many conversations the company has had with residents like Gervitz. They say if the goal is to help the East Side thrive, then it comes down to finances.
That is a big part of that growth. It's a big part of bringing good ways for individuals to be able to save, for individuals to be able to buy their homes, to find ways to invest, and we want to be in part of the growth with them.
First Merchant says in addition to talking with the community, it has done its research using a study from Indiana University, which indicates the 46218 zip code is lacking financial literacy and down payment assistance. Now the bank is prepared to cater to the East Side's commercial and residential customers.
We're going to have a first-time homebuyer product with no money down. There's going to be grant money available and low credit scores as low as 600.
Gervitz says she is looking forward to the day when residents don't solely have to rely on a liquor store or payday loan store to simply cash a check.
Who wouldn't have a bank? And the need has just been so critical.
Cameron Riddle, WRTV.
Well, First Merchants Bank was at the center of a 2019 lawsuit from the U.S. Department of Justice accusing the bank of redlining and avoiding offering services in predominantly black areas of Indianapolis. Without admitting any wrongdoing, First Merchants Bank settled that lawsuit and agreed to open a full-service bank in one of the city's predominantly black neighborhoods. Tomorrow we'll learn more about new relief for hotels, restaurants, and other businesses in Marion County. Leaders will announce details on a hospitality industry grant program at 2 o'clock. The grants will be paid through $7.5 million in federal COVID-19 relief funding. Marion County businesses, notably bars and clubs, have been under tighter pandemic restrictions than the rest of the state due to a much higher number of COVID-19 cases. And the hospitality industry in downtown Indianapolis has been hit hard by the cancellation of major sporting events and conventions. We're waiting for the Presidential Commission on Debates to announce specific changes to the final two debates between President Trump and Joe Biden. The commission is vowing to change the rules after last night's chaos. ABC's Elizabeth Schulze has reaction from the campaign trail tonight.
Which is her right. That she thinks that
despair and disappointment from voters today after the first presidential debate showcased an ugly and personal verbal assault between President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. An estimated 73 million Americans tuning in last night.
I turned it on, but I got so disgusted I couldn't watch it.
I wasn't impressed, honestly. Both people were, they both let the worst of them come out.
The 98-minute debate featuring constant interruptions from President Trump.
President, can you let him finish, sir? No, he doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be surprised.
You pick
You'd be surprised.
the wrong guy, the wrong night at the wrong.
Will you shut up, man?
And this stunning moment with the president refusing to condemn white supremacists, instead telling the far-right extremist group, the Proud Boys, to stand by.
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir. Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys. Stand back and stand by.
Today, top Republicans on Capitol Hill saying the president needs to explain himself.
I think he misspoke. I think he should correct it. If he doesn't correct it, I guess he didn't misspeak.
Later at the White House, Trump trying to clarify his remarks.
I don't know who the Proud Boys are. I mean, you'll have to give me a definition because I really don't know who they are. I can only say they have to stand down, let law enforcement do their work.
Back on the campaign trail in Ohio, Biden delivering a sharp rebuke to those comments.
My message to the Proud Boys and every other white supremacist group is cease and desist. That's not who we are. This is not who we are as Americans.
The former vice president calling last night's debate a wake-up call for American voters.
The president of the United States conducting himself the way he did, I think it was just a national embarrassment.
The Commission on Presidential Debates issued a surprising statement this afternoon promising there will be more structure in the remaining debates between Trump and Biden. Both campaigns would have to agree to any changes in the formats. Elizabeth Schulze, ABC News, Washington.
Reaction tonight from both sides of the aisle on a proposal that will give civilian citizens a say in IMPD policies. We told you last night at 11 a proposal to add 4 civilians to the police department's General Orders Committee is headed to the full City County Council. Right now, that committee is made up of 3 law enforcement officers. Councilor Krista Carlino says IMPD already works with community leaders and university experts when creating policies.
Those who are already doing work in our public sector who, again, quite frankly, have a seat at the table, but they don't have a vote and it's not a transparent process. So law enforcement can or cannot or can choose to not take that advice.
Civilian appointees would have to complete the Citizens Police Academy, several training courses, and a minimum of 24 hours worth of ride-alongs. Councilor Brian Mowry opposes the proposal.
To say we're going to let a group of civilians that have again, this watered down version of their training to set their policy, I don't see how we can honestly say this is a good idea. We're putting the officers at risk, we're putting their families at risk.
If approved, the proposal would give 4 appointed civilians a majority of the General Orders Board. 2 other members would be appointed by the chief and 1 would be elected by the department. The full council is scheduled to vote on the issue on October 12th.
I mean, literally right now, I'm supporting probably three households, not just mine.
Financial relief for renters is hurting some landlords. A little later, why some say both sides could end up losing if the government does not act. And if 2020 has you feeling overwhelmed, our next story will give you hope.
It's great. It's great to be able to go home as a family of 3 and start a new adventure.
Tonight, a 3-week-old baby is sleeping in his own crib for the first time after an unexpected stay in the neonatal intensive care unit. After a completely normal pregnancy for his mother, Maxton was born with a congenital heart defect called hypoplastic right heart syndrome. Doctors say he will still need a few surgeries, but otherwise will be able to live a normal, healthy life.
The day before his surgery, when he was transferred, and the day of his surgery were just complete chaos because from each half hour increments changed what was happening and what we were expected to do. And that was a lot to take in, but we just took it every hour by hour, every minute by minute, and we just get through it together. And that's kind of our family motto.
Ascension St. Vincent says 1 in 100 babies in Indiana are born with congenital heart defects. So this family situation is something many Hoosier families experience. Indianapolis has been deemed the most wasteful city in the United States. WRTV's Kelsey Anderson explains why and how city leaders are working to solve problems that have been around for decades.
Indianapolis's recycling rate is just at 7%, making them fall way behind other Midwest cities. And that is why city leaders are partnering with the Indiana Recycling Coalition. The goal of the Indiana Recycling Coalition is to get the state at 50% recycling rate, and they have to start with Indianapolis. The first thing Executive Director Allison Mitchell tells me they have to do is inform and educate the residents of how to properly recycle.
3 rules for proper recycling. It's know what to throw, which the other way to say that is when in doubt, throw it out. So find out specifically what your hauler wants you to put in your recycling bin and stick to just that. The other is empty, clean, and dry. So make sure when you throw something in your recycling bin, it's empty, clean, and dry, so it doesn't contaminate other things. And then don't bag your recyclables. The bags and the plastic film create a lot of trouble for the recyclers at the sorting facility.
She says they also have to work with the city behind the scenes on the policies and the mechanisms for improving recycling infrastructure and investment here in central Indiana. They are urging everyone to recycle, but they want to make sure you're doing it right. So before you do, head over to sustainindi.org to find out what can be recycled and where you can do it. Working for you, Kelsey Anderson, WRTV.
Well, tomorrow is the first day of October, which means that many of you are starting to make Halloween plans. The Indiana Health Commissioner is now offering guidance for Halloween celebrations.
And I'm not trying to be the Grinch or maybe appropriately the witch, more appropriately, the witch who ruined Halloween. But I don't want COVID-19 to take that role either.
Oh, the state is following the CDC's recommendations, putting Halloween activities into 3 categories: lower risk, moderate risk, and higher risk. Celebrations with just your own family in your own home are lower risk. Traditional trick-or-treating and crowded indoor costume parties are higher risk. Here are the key things to remember, according to Dr. Christina Box.
A costume mask is not a substitute for a cloth mask. A costume mask should not be used unless it's made of 2 or more layers of breathable fabric that covers the mouth and nose and doesn't leave gaps around the face. Instead, consider using a Halloween-themed mask. And if you're going to a haunted house or any other scary event where screaming might occur, you should stay even more than 6 feet away from others who aren't in your family to reduce the risk of spreading COVID-19.
If you may have COVID or may have been exposed to someone with the virus, Dr. Box stresses you should not participate in any in-person Halloween events. That includes passing out candy to trick-or-treaters. Time now for the Storm Team forecast, and we're about to embark on October 1st in just a few seconds, Kevin. A new month.
Can you read this wrapper, Mark?
If I get really, really close to the screen. Really closer than this.
Stay 6 feet apart. What I'm getting at is I've already got some candy wrappers in here as we talk about Halloween. So, yeah, that means I'm eating the candy already. Well, as you mentioned, October 1st, we're going to roll into the new month on a relatively dry note. Obviously, September, the driest on record. We'll start the new month of October with little rainfall in the immediate future. There'll be some showers tomorrow, but nothing of real consequence. It looks like through the 14th, we continue with below average rainfall the first couple of weeks for the month. And as you'll see here shortly, we start a warming trend next week that should last into the middle of the month. Windy again tomorrow, just not as windy as what we had today. Winds will gust to around 20 miles per hour through the afternoon hours out of the west northwest. It will be a cooler day. Remember that, 10 degrees cooler or so than today. I'll pick up the timeline 1 o'clock in the afternoon. There is a cloud cover. There are the showers. They blossom during the afternoon and early evening hours. Everything kind of moving from northwest to southeast as that colder air filters into central Indiana. Temperatures well below average to start the month, but we'll fix that. As I mentioned, early next week we start a sustained warming trend. Friday, coolest day of the week, 59 degrees with a mixture of clouds and sunshine, a dry day on Friday. There'll be a decent amount of cloud cover, especially central and eastern Indiana, but late in the day we start to see the clouds begin to clear, which is good news for Friday night football. Should be comfortable, dry, northwest wind, temperatures in the mid-50s. With the wind light overnight and into Saturday morning, patchy frost likely to develop. Temperatures outside of Indianapolis should be in the 40s. Saturday, we're at 61 with sunshine. When we have the cloud cover and showers, we're cooler for the second half of the weekend. One of the forecast models, it's a little more aggressive, hinting at quarter to maybe half-inch rainfall amounts, but our history has said that's overdoing it a bit. Let's hope I'm wrong and we do get that much. Temperatures next week back in the low 70s by Wednesday, and beyond the 7-day forecast that you see, temperatures may well continue in the 70s for a while. Mark?
A little warmer on the way. Thanks, Kevin. The Rebound Indiana is our initiative to highlight organizations that are working to meet the needs of Hoosiers during this pandemic, like the Lord's Pantry at Anna's House at Elder in New York on the west side of Indianapolis. It was founded by Lucius Newsom. He dedicated the name of the pantry to his friend, Anna Malloy, a young girl with dwarfism who spent her time volunteering to help feed the community. Both Lucius and Anna died within weeks of each other in 2008. But years later, and especially in a global pandemic, volunteers are continuing the mission of those two friends.
But we're a pretty small place, trying to make a big impact. So our families drive up, we load their car with as much as we possibly can. You know, I'd like to say that the need of the community is diminishing, but it's not, and we're seeing more and more families every week that are coming from outside of the area.
Julie Malloy, Anna's mother, tells us the pantry is looking for more volunteers. The online volunteer portal just reopened after closing due to COVID restrictions. Financial help is also needed. We have all the ways that you can help the Lord's Pantry on our website, WRTV.com/rebound. Many people are also struggling to pay the rent. A federal eviction moratorium is in effect through the CDC, but some landlords are going to court to try to overrule the order. Scripps reporter Alicia Nieves has more on the help landlords say tenants need instead.
Millions of renters are safe from eviction after the CDC issued an eviction moratorium at the beginning of September. But landlords like Andy Orfatelli in Florida,
my lender wants his money,
to Rebecca Welsh in Kentucky, are saying they cannot afford this moratorium mandate.
I mean, literally right now, I'm supporting probably three homes, 3 households, not just mine. Pregnant.
We're concerned that an order like this could force many operators into bankruptcy, and those properties could be lost.
Bob Penninger is with the National Apartment Association, which has joined landlords in at least 3 states in a lawsuit against the CDC's federal ban on most evictions.
We were forced into this situation with the inaction of Congress in putting together a stimulus package, and then the combination of the CDC order laid over the top of that has forced us to where we have to take legal action.
Are you saying that in the middle of a pandemic, people should be allowed to be evicted and in some cases put on the street with little or no protection? Or are you saying that a government mandate to this extent cannot go unfunded?
This is really to try to force Congress to get back to the table and talk about a solution here.
The National Apartment Association wants a stimulus package with money allocated to renters instead of a moratorium, because the money would trickle down to help landlords pay their mortgages and keep their property. If Congress doesn't act, what happens?
You're going to begin to see operators move to the brink of foreclosure.
The courts are expected to rule on the lawsuit against the CDC by the end of October, and there is a chance the court could block or end the eviction moratorium at that time. I'm Alicia Nieves reporting.
IndyCar is gearing up for 2 races at the Speedway this weekend, and the series championship could hang in the balance. WRTV's Brad Brown takes a look at what fans can expect at the first ever Harvest GP.
The 2020 IndyCar season has certainly been strange, from the sudden cancellation of the very first race weekend back in March to an Indy 500 run around an empty Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But through all of it, something very familiar. Scott Dixon closing in on a series championship.
For us, we just got to treat it like any other race weekend and try and get maximum points. The obvious goal is to go out there and try and win, but unfortunately, there's 23 or 4 others that have the same goal. So we'll try to do a lot better job than what we did at the last doubleheader in Mid-Ohio.
The Mid-Ohio doubleheader saw Dixon finish 10th in both races. That allowed Joseph Newgarden to close the gap in the standings by 24 points. Newgarden's 2nd and 8th place results at Mid-Ohio still leave him 72 behind, but a little momentum perhaps coming back to Indy.
It's been kind of an up and down year. Some weekends seem to go kind of according to plan and how you think, and then a lot of other weekends have just kind of gone away from us. So I feel optimistic. I always feel optimistic going into a weekend, so we'll see what we got.
Dixon won the IndyCar Grand Prix on the 4th of July. He leads IndyCar in wins this season, but his summer success may not mean as much as the calendar rolls over to October.
The track conditions are going to be, a lot different. I think 90 degrees to maybe Saturday, maybe in the 50s, I think somebody said to me yesterday. So you just can't rely on any of that stuff. It's a new weekend and one that we're going to have to approach, flat out and make sure we get the most out of it.
Newgarden is the defending series champion. With just 3 races left to reclaim that title, he knows it'll be an uphill battle, much like it's been all season.
I think we all know how difficult it is to be in that fight. So I think you always go into the season a little bit with that question mark, but with, high anticipation and certainly a lot of enthusiasm. I felt enthusiastic that we could be good, but you never know where you're going to be.
It could be a 6th IndyCar title for Dixon. That would leave only Foyt ahead of him all time.
For me, it's the love of the sport. I feel very lucky and very privileged to do what I do. I really enjoy the people that I work with. They, as a whole, really drive me.
A twist on the Harvest GP doubleheader. Friday's race will be 85 laps, Saturday just 75. So teams will have to dial a bit of different strategy for each day. Fans can still get race day tickets at ims.com. Brad Brown, WRTV Sports.
Lower 60s tomorrow afternoon, still breezy with some isolated showers around. Mark, I'm going to go hide the Halloween candy from myself right now. I don't know how I'll do that, but I'm going to try.
stop eating it. Hey, thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here for GMI.